When family becomes the wound, we've been sold a lie, a beautiful, dangerous lie, wrapped in scripture, stitched into greeting cards, and whispered at every family reunion. The lie says family is safe. The lie says blood protects. The lie says the people who share your name will never be the ones to break you. But what happens when the very people you trusted most become the architects of your destruction? What happens when the courtroom meant to protect your children becomes the place where you lose them? What happens when survival mode isn't a phase? It's your entire existence. And the cape you've been wearing finally crushes you under its weight. I had the profound honor of sitting down with Shalonda Purnell, a woman whose story will shatter every comfortable assumption you've ever held about family, resilience, and what it truly means to survive. Shalonda is not just a survivor of custody loss, homelessness, cancer, and betrayal. She is a living testament to the truth that pain does not erase purpose, that being broken is not the end of the story, and that healing requires a fight even when the fight feels completely gone. She is making the world better by refusing to let her pain stay silent, by standing as proof that devastation does not get the final word, and by showing Black women everywhere that softness after survival is not weakness, it is revolution. Let me be clear. This is not a story about bouncing back. This is about what happens when bouncing back isn't even on the table. When you're told you will never see your children again, when the people who were supposed to stand with you turn their backs, when the legal system that promised justice delivers nothing but more trauma, when your body breaks down under the weight of it all, and cancer shows up like one more betrayal in a long line of losses. Shalonda's experience exposes the myth we've been clinging to. Family is not automatically safe. Courts do not automatically protect. And survival, real survival, often looks nothing like the triumphant comeback stories we celebrate on social media. Let's talk about what actually happened. There was a mother who believed the system would work. She believed that family meant protection. She believed that the people who shared her blood would stand beside her when everything fell apart. She walked into that courtroom expecting justice. She walked in believing that her love for her children would be enough to keep them close. But the courtroom didn't see her love. The system didn't protect her bond. And the family she thought would defend her turned away. She lost custody, not because she was unfit, not because she didn't fight, not because she didn't love those children with every fiber of her being. She lost custody because the structures we're told to trust failed her in ways that are almost too painful to name. The judge's ruling came down like a hammer. The words were final, cold, absolute. You will never regain custody. Move on. Your role as a mother is over. Do you understand what that does to a woman? Do you understand what it means to have your identity, your purpose, your reason for breathing ripped away by a legal system that was supposed to protect you and a family that was supposed to hold you up? The emotional collapse that followed wasn't weakness, it was the human response to an inhuman loss. Hopelessness, numbness, a shutdown so complete that even the will to fight disappeared. She stopped recognizing herself. She stopped feeling anything at all. Because when you lose the thing that matters most, when the people who were supposed to love you become the ones inflicting the wound, what's left? And here's what we don't talk about enough. Black mothers face this trauma with an added layer of stigma, disbelief, and systemic barriers that make the pain even more isolating. When a Black woman loses custody, the world doesn't ask what happened to her, it asks what she did wrong. The judgment is swift, the support is scarce, and the silence around her suffering is deafening. Society doesn't make space for her grief. It doesn't ask about the betrayal, the lies, the ways the system twisted her story until she didn't even recognize herself in it. But this mother didn't just endure that loss. She became a witness to what survival looks like when everything has been stripped away. The most powerful milestone in her story is not a courtroom victory. It's the fact that she is still here, still standing, still telling the truth, still breathing when everything in her life tried to suffocate her. Let's go deeper. Imagine losing your children. Imagine losing your sense of self. And then imagine losing your home. This is where the story gets even harder to hold because after the custody battle, after the emotional collapse, after the betrayal, she became homeless. The instability wasn't just emotional anymore, it was physical. It was waking up not knowing where you would sleep. It was carrying trauma in a body that had no place to rest. It was surviving each day with nothing left in the tank, no safety net, no plan, no certainty. And then, as if the universe decided she hadn't suffered enough, cancer showed up. Cancer doesn't care about your custody battle. Cancer doesn't care that you're already emotionally exhausted. Cancer doesn't wait for you to be ready, it just comes. And when it does, you have a choice: surrender or resist. She chose resistance, not the loud, fist in the air kind of resistance we see in movies, the quiet, relentless, one breath at a time kind of resistance that says, I will not let this be my ending. Rebuilding required persistence. It required self advocacy when no one else was advocating for her. It required a refusal to let hardship become a permanent identity. Rising from homelessness and surviving cancer became milestones of defiance, proof that devastation does not get the final word. And here's the lesson we need to absorb: survival is not about being strong all the time, it's about refusing to let the worst moments define your entire story. It's about recognizing that even when you feel completely broken, you are still here. And that matters. It matters more than we give it credit for. Because every single day that you wake up after something tried to destroy you is a victory. Every breath is an act of resistance. Every moment you choose to keep going is proof that you are stronger than what tried to break you. But the pain didn't stop there. There's another layer to this story that we need to talk about: character assassination, lies, distortion, family conflict that twists the narrative until you don't even recognize yourself in the stories being told about you. This is the kind of betrayal that doesn't leave physical scars, but it cuts just as deep. When the people who are supposed to know you best become the ones spreading lies about your character, the isolation is suffocating. When your name is dragged through the mud by the very people who should be protecting it, the burden of being misunderstood while already in pain is a special kind of torture. She faced judgment and betrayal from the people she expected safety from, and the weight of that, the weight of being lied about, misrepresented, and villainized while you're already drowning. It's almost unbearable, but the path forward, the only path forward, was reclaiming the narrative, telling the truth, refusing to let false stories define personal worth. Because protecting your name, your mental health, and your sense of self is not optional, it is survival. It is an act of resistance in a world that wants to silence you, erase you, and reduce you to the lies people tell about you. This is a broader reality for Black women. Our pain is minimized, our character is scrutinized. And when we speak up, we're told we're angry, difficult, or too much. But speaking up, telling the truth, refusing to be silenced, that's not being difficult, that's being human. That's demanding to be seen, heard, and believed in a world that would rather we stay quiet. So, what do these stories teach us? First, pain does not erase purpose. Even after custody loss, homelessness, illness, and emotional collapse, a person can still rebuild and reclaim meaning. Purpose doesn't disappear just because everything else does. Purpose waits. It waits for you to catch your breath. It waits for you to remember who you are beneath the trauma. And when you're ready, it reminds you that your story is not over. Shalonda's life is proof of that. Her survival is proof that purpose can be rediscovered even in the wreckage. Second, being broken is not the end of the story. When systems fail, when family fails, when relationships fail, survival itself becomes evidence of strength. We live in a world that celebrates the highlight reel, the comeback, the victory lap. But we don't talk enough about the people who are still in the middle of the mess, still figuring it out, still trying to make it through the day. Those people are not less than, they are warriors. And their survival is a victory, even if it doesn't look like one yet. Even if it's messy, even if it's still unfolding, even if they're still putting the pieces back together. Third, healing requires a fight, even when the fight feels gone. The turning point often begins with one decision to keep moving, one decision to speak up, one decision to refuse to stay silent in the pain. Shalonda's turning point wasn't a dramatic moment. It was a series of small, defiant choices that said, I am still here and I still matter. And that's what healing looks like. Not a sudden transformation, not an overnight miracle, just small, consistent, courageous choices to keep going. Now, let's talk about what happens if more people adopt this perspective. If more people stopped romanticizing family as automatically safe, we would create space for honest conversations about the harm that happens within families. We would stop shaming people for setting boundaries with relatives. We would stop telling people to forgive and move on before they've even had a chance to heal. We would start believing survivors when they tell us their family hurt them. We would start protecting people instead of protecting reputations. If more organizations took emotional trauma, custody loss, and survival seriously, we would see real support instead of empty platitudes. We would see systems that protect mothers instead of punishing them. We would see communities that rally around people in crisis instead of judging them from a distance. We would see policies that prioritize healing over punishment, connection over control, and humanity over bureaucracy. That shift would create more honest support, less judgment, and more protection for people who are suffering in silence. And for Black women specifically, it would mean being seen, believed, and supported in ways that are long overdue. It would mean that when a Black woman says she's in pain, we believe her. When she says the system failed her, we listen. When she says she needs help, we show up. Here's what I need you to hear: surviving what was meant to break you is a victory, not surviving and thriving, not surviving and bouncing back, just surviving, just making it through, just still being here when everything in your life tried to erase you. That is enough. That is powerful. That is revolutionary. Shalonda Purnell is still here, and her presence, her voice, her refusal to let her pain stay hidden is an act of resistance. It's an act of love. It's an act of revolution. She is proof that you can lose everything and still reclaim your life. She is proof that devastation does not get the final word. She is proof that softness after survival is not weakness. It is the bravest thing you will ever do. So here's my challenge to you: stop hiding your pain. Stop pretending you're fine when you're not. Stop letting shame keep you silent about what happened to you. Tell the truth, not to everyone, not to people who haven't earned the right to hear it, but tell the truth to yourself. Tell the truth to someone safe. Tell the truth because your story matters, because your survival matters, because you matter. And then I want you to choose one act today that helps you reclaim your voice, your peace, or your future. One act, not 10, not a complete life overhaul, just one. Maybe it's setting a boundary with someone who's been draining you. Maybe it's saying no without guilt for the first time in years. Maybe it's resting without feeling like you have to earn it. Maybe it's simply acknowledging that you've been through hell and you're still standing. Because here's the truth that Shalonda's story reveals: softness after survival is not weakness, it is the bravest thing you will ever do. Letting go of the cape, releasing the need to be strong all the time, choosing rest and healing and joy after years of grinding, that is not giving up. That is coming home to yourself. That is reclaiming the life that trauma tried to steal from you. Family is not automatically safe. Systems do not automatically protect. But you are still here. And that is not an accident. That is not luck. That is strength. That is purpose. That is proof that you were meant to survive this. So survive it. And then when you're ready, let yourself be soft. Let yourself rest. Let yourself reclaim the joy, the peace, and the freedom you deserve without guilt, without apology, and without explanation. Because your softness is not surrender, it is revolution. And the world needs you whole, healed, and free, not because of what you can do for others, but because you deserve it. You have always deserved it. And it's time you believe that. Now go, reclaim your voice, protect your peace, choose yourself, and let your survival become the foundation for a life you no longer have to escape from, but one you finally get to live.